a third version of the disclosure package, which some of the contents wasn't given to me during the trial. And a police profiler made an uninformed conclusion about me, my character, whatever, based only on the former officer's notes. And this report was concluded at 9:10 a.m. the next day, several hours after I was released from the police station. I would have been at the hospital around that time. I'm going to read this line. His actions mimic those of a pedophile grooming a child. It's the first time I read it not too long ago. I'd never seen that before. Somehow, the story goes from raping or sexually assaulting this female, being co-accused with a male co-worker, but to that. And over the years, I couldn't understand why all four of the lawyers that I had, and the Crown Prosecutor's Office, and everybody that I talked to, everybody, all treated me like I was a piece of shit. Now I know. That person who made that report never talked to me, made this conclusion solely based on, and it's very clear in the whole document, based on what the former officer stated. This is why all these years I've asked and paid people very well to help me, and because this is what they're thinking. An uninformed conclusion based on other uninformed conclusions and assumptions, all based on a lie. It's June 2025. Now, I'm going to be revisiting my story that took place in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, which for me began in 2012 and quickly escalated beyond ridiculous on May 4th, 2013. I'm going to go back to November of 2012, after the first time I resigned and after I was asked to stay a little bit longer, which was one of my many mistakes to do. So in November of 2012, myself and a male co-worker were falsely accused of some sort of sexual assault against a female who became central to my story. How do I know this? I know this because she had told me. Now that day in the morning, I was at one of the buildings that this nonprofit organization owned, apartment buildings. I headed up that whole division. And I had a strange phone call asking if that female was at the building. And I had said yes. Long story short, I ended up going back to my office, knowing that there was a police officer there. I had no idea what was going on. I was assuming that he wanted to talk to her about an accident that happened a year prior. She was a passenger in a vehicle that had some serious accident or something. And I never thought nothing of it. The female was taken to the office, the organization, not too long after, and I knew that they were in the office of the new executive director talking about something. And this whole false accusation thing was made known to me by her at the end of the day. No one had spoke to me about anything. Everyone else was asked questions but me. So from my perspective, everyone knew what was going on but me. And as I was leaving at the end of the day, that female who was central to my story asked if she can walk with me. I said, sure. And rather than walk around the whole building, we went out the main door, came around and walked through the main office building to get to the other side. And then it was just a short walk to get to where I had to be. And it was during those maybe 10, 15 seconds, I just asked her if everything was okay, thinking it was the police were talking to her about that accident. And she said, I can't talk to you about this. And I said, oh, okay, that's fine. I had no idea what was going on. And by the time we walked maybe 15 feet inside the building, there's all elevators and there's people coming and going. At the end of the day, office hours, she had said to me that this male co-worker and myself are being investigating for trying to wordcraft this for censorship, sexually assaulted her with the R word. So I remember being completely stunned, floored about all this. And I guess we kept walking, and I just told her to get away from me. My words were, I used some profanity. I had no idea what was going on. I went out the front. She had turned around to go back the way we came, and I'm trying to process what just was said in a busy lobby full of people. So I went outside and I started to text with this new executive director, which obviously he knew what was going on, and he was told not to talk to me until the next day for some reason. So this is when I became personally involved in the sexual abuse, trafficking, whatever you want to call it, at this nonprofit mental health organization where I worked. Now I have a mission. I have no idea what's going on, and to this day, I have no idea what was going on. And even through the Freedom of Information and other sources, trying to obtain the documents of what happened, everything's redacted, everything, which is ridiculous. So my mission, twofold now in my head, thinking I have to vindicate myself of this and try to get evidence of what was taking place with the sex trafficking of vulnerable women. So come December, this female kept leaving me letters on my desk wanting to talk. So come December, early in December, I had said, okay, and that one is when I made my first audio recording secretly. And I try to let her talk, and you can hear in the audio, which I've shared in older videos, what was said. I use excerpts throughout, just to shorten it up, say for example in my introduction video to my channel. Now keep in mind, I'm trying to vindicate myself, avoid legal matters, specifically criminal. That's my mindset. And then come, I think it was January, trying to go off my memory here, I ran into her in a public place and came up with the idea to keep recording her, always in public. Let's just fast forward to May 4th, 2013, when the officers, former officers, testified that they didn't give me any instructions when they approached the scene of the assault on me. And basically I was just waiting there arbitrarily to see, whatever. The first former officer who testified, Kinnell, I had observed him coming out of the police cube van, run to the back of my vehicle. And as he's running back to the police cube van where former officer Hayhurst was waiting for him, all I heard him say was, "Yeah, that's," and then I couldn't make out what was said after that. I'm just sitting there waiting. My thought at that moment was, okay, what is going on here? And perhaps naively thinking this is an opportunity to get more information and so forth. Now keep in mind, the time that I'm sitting with this female, I'm recording. And they testified, yeah, if I just chose to drive away, I could have, but I didn't. I've done a video saying, did I voluntarily stay there? But anyway. Now, here's my point that I want to make about all this. Here I am trying to, with regards to the false allegation. Now, I don't know what the allegation really is about. She told me it was the R word. But as far as I know, it was just some sort of sexual assault. I have no idea. But I'm trying to vindicate myself to avoid, for example, a criminal matter. Now, these officers try to paint the picture that I was deliberate in my actions against them, alleged actions against them, and everything else, creating a criminal problem for myself, which is the very thing I was trying to avoid initially. Doesn't make sense. I even testified to that, and it doesn't seem to really matter. So I just want to kind of go over this detail, this one element of my story and the wrongful convictions. That initially, one of my objectives was to vindicate myself to avoid a criminal legal matter. And because of what they did to me, I ended up in a criminal legal matter, just perhaps rebranded. And I just want to close off by saying this. Whoever was behind all this, as far as I know anyway, they just walked away from the mess that they created, not just for myself, but for everyone involved. Keep in mind, 2 individuals lost their careers over this. Others, through my efforts, because of the injustice that I was facing, lost their careers or had their careers compromised. And none of this had shut me up. So, just wanted to give people something to think about when they're thinking, well, must have did something. No, I didn't do anything, but cooperated as they testified. Anyway, that's all I want to say. Thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, and share. When police officers are at fault, the innocent victim of them has to be not only charged but convicted of allegedly assaulting a police officer in obstruction. And this ties in with my story, with the 2 wrongful convictions that I have against me from Calgary, Alberta. Why is there a need to have the innocent person convicted? Because that is the defense for a lawsuit. Because if someone is convicted, for example, of assaulting a police officer in obstruction, then the individual, the victim to everything, caused their own injuries. To expand on this a little bit more, you can say that the Officer was defending himself while he was on duty and had to do whatever it took to subdue the individual.
Listen to this and write it down if you can't remember it. You're never going to outgrow warfare. You simply must learn to fight. I hear people saying to me, oh, when is it going to get easier? When you die.